Warm greetings. Please note, today he officially never broke the ceasefire. And, as expected, Israel responded with a forceful air operation. It all started this morning in Rafah, southern Gaza Strip. A group of terrorists fired an anti-tank missile at an Israeli military vehicle from the engineering corps who were working inside the security perimeter that is behind the famous yellow line. Shortly after, sniper fire and explosions were reported in the same area against the Israel Defense Forces, who confirmed that several soldiers were injured and were evacuated to medical centers. At the same time, two other serious incidents occurred in northern Gaza. In Jabalia, armed men tried to infiltrate an Israeli position, but they were detected and killed before completely crossing the yellow line. That security strip agreed upon after the ceasefire. In Betalia, another group of fighters was seen approaching Israeli positions. The army opened fire, neutralizing the attackers before they could launch grenades and rockets. Minutes later, the sky over Gaza filled with planes. The Israeli Air Force launched a wide offensive. Israeli fighter jets and drones attacked 83 Hamas targets using around 120 precision munitions. The attacks were concentrated in Rafah and Nuseirat, destroying terrorist infrastructure, command centers, and a significant network of tunnels. Targeted eliminations were also carried out with drones in the central and northern parts of the strip. The Israel Defense Forces reported the deaths of dozens of terrorists, most of them belonging to the Qassam brigades. Israel's Defense Minister Katz was categorical. Hamas will learn the hard way today that the Israel Defense Forces is determined to protect its soldiers and prevent any harm against them. We have instructed the army to act with full intensity against terrorist targets. Hamas will pay a high price for every shot and for every violation of the ceasefire. And so it was. The message was clear. Israel will not tolerate provocations or tests of strength at the expense of its troops. This episode confirms what we had already warned about in previous videos. It was unlikely that Hezbollah would resist testing the new Israeli positions behind the yellow line. That security strip restricts their movement, cuts off their logistical routes, and leaves them more exposed. For them, challenging that border was a way to gauge Israel's reaction and perhaps regain some internal prestige. But the reality is that a single spark can reignite the entire war. The calm was fragile, and today's events show the ceasefire is barely holding. Israel keeps its forces behind the yellow line on high alert, with orders to respond immediately to any new aggression. The Nemer tanks and the armored vehicles of 9 continue moving along the security strip, while drones and helicopters monitor every movement in Gazan territory. The Israeli communities near Gaza, especially Sderot and Nahal Oz, were instructed to stay close to shelters due to the possibility of new mortar or rocket fire. So the sound of fighter jets and drones is once again constant over the skies of Gaza. Today, the ceasefire in practice seems to be vanishing. Now, the world is witnessing the true nature of the terror experienced in Gaza, not really because of the Israel Defense Forces. Israel withdrew behind the yellow line, and in its absence, what we see is absolute internal chaos. Dozens of armed groups and local militias are fighting each other for control of neighborhoods and specific areas. Meanwhile, Hamas imposes its power by force, using violence to maintain its status, both in front of the population and with international aid workers. And I want to tell you something that has been happening over the last 2 days. And the thing is, on Arab social media, a number of videos are going viral showing Hamas terrorists in all their brutality torturing Gazan civilians. Listen to me carefully. Are you getting this? The different videos were recorded at the time and circulated from Gaza, where civilians could be seen thanking Trump or the Israel Defense Forces for the aid they were receiving. Well, they're looking for them one by one and publicly breaking their legs and arms with rods or large stones. Obviously, I can't show the images here. Even in the private WhatsApp group I resisted sharing them because honestly, they're very graphic images. What's happening right now in the Gaza Strip by Hamas is that there's really no way to describe the brutality of the images and videos being shared from there. And the thing is, the millions of dollars that have been raised around the world in the name of the Palestinian cause don't reach ordinary people. They end up in the hands of Hamas. who use them to rearm and rebuild their military machinery. Israel, of course, knows this, and that's why it maintains strict control to prevent arms smuggling from fueling that cycle of terror again. And in the midst of all this, the unusual proposal of President Petro of Colombia appears, who suggested sending to Gaza the gold seized from Colombian drug trafficking. Who exactly does he intend to send it to? In Gaza, there is no legitimate civil authority or structure capable of receiving humanitarian aid of this magnitude, not even the money that is being raised. There's only Hamas. And I highly doubt that gold will end up in the hands of those in need. And what would the needy or Gaza's people do with gold? What use would that gold be to them right now, in the circumstances they're in? If it got in, would it become rockets, tunnels, or weapons? It wouldn't even make it that far. It would reach the Hamas branches that are outside the Gaza territory to turn it into money. And obviously, then turn it into weapons to support all the military infrastructure that it tries to maintain inside Gaza. Because obviously this isn't bread, nor is it medicine. And beyond that, there's a question that many of us are asking. Are things really so good in Colombia that they can afford to give away their gold? The most precious and valued resource in the world. Today, let me know your opinion in the comments. I would really like to know what you think about this matter. Alright, after this morning's attacks, the Israeli Security Cabinet held an emergency meeting in Jerusalem. The decision was unanimous to maintain the military presence behind the yellow line, but with full operational freedom to respond to any new attack. Israel is not seeking to reoccupy, but it makes it clear that deterrence is not negotiable. The message coming out of this meeting is clear. The ceasefire will not be maintained at any cost. If Hamas continues harassing Israeli positions, the army will intensify the bombings and resume selective operations without the need to announce a new ground offensive. The Ministry of Defense has ordered a complete review of the smuggling routes that continue to reach Gaza from Egypt and by sea. According to military sources, some of the weapons that Hamas is using to challenge the truce may have entered during the period of fighting. The army is now strengthening aerial and naval surveillance to be able to prevent all this smuggling. What about domestic politics? The response was immediate. Israel cuts. The minister reiterated that Hamas must pay for each agreement violation. Meanwhile, the Minister of Education, Yoav Kish, stated that with the hostages already released, Israel does not have to hold back. He said explicitly, "The hand of the army." President Donald Trump expressed his support for Israel's right to defend itself, but called for keeping actions under control to avoid further escalation. And in diplomatic circles, the assessment is that the truce is effectively broken, although formally no one has declared it over. Not yet. Israel doesn't want to declare it officially, because that would also mean breaking coordination with Washington and with Egypt. But in practice, it is already acting under open combat rules. In summary, Israel returns to active defense mode without ground operations, but with full response capability from the air and the sea. With a message that leaves no room for doubt, whoever fires will pay the price. Take this moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. While Gaza flares up again, the northern front also remains tense. I mean the Israel-Lebanon border. In the last few hours, Hezbollah released a message stating that their forces are prepared for any challenge. A warning intended to keep Israel watching two fronts at the same time. Although there have been no direct attacks from Lebanon, the Israel Defense Forces remains on high alert after the intense bombardments that have occurred in recent days. What did I share with him? With this, it reinforces artillery positions and deploys more air defense systems along the border. In areas like Metula or Kiryat Shmona, controlled explosions were heard during preventive maneuvers by the army, as part of the military exercises being carried out to respond to possible infiltrations. Israeli analysts agree that Hezbollah's statement is not an empty threat, but rather a political and psychological maneuver to remind Israel that it can open another front if the pressure on Hamas increases. And at the same time, from Tehran, Iranian media released a propaganda video showing part of their missile and drone arsenal that they still have. accompanied by a message where they promise a stronger response than before to any Israeli attack. And intelligence sources confirm that Iran continues to build its defense network and military capabilities with technical assistance from Russia and China. After the blows received in recent months, Israel, for its part, maintains the containment strategy to prevent Iran from fully reactivating its influence over Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Each action, each selective operation aims to dismantle that axis before they can regroup. The reality is that the region lives in an extremely fragile balance. If anyone thought that with the signing of the ceasefire in Gaza, all of this was going to calm down, the truth is they don't understand. So, what's happening here in the region is that Gaza is on the verge of exploding again, the north is heating up, and Tehran continues to move its pieces. Israel knows that any mistake could open up a simultaneous conflict once again on different fronts, and that's why it's preparing for all possible scenarios. And here, we always stay on alert, so we'll keep a close eye on everything that's happening here in Israel. Subscribe to the channel so you'll know when I upload a new video. And what about the bell? And of course, don't leave without giving a like. That's the reward you can give me. If you like this video, of course, share it. See you.